Thomas Jefferson said it best. Thomas Jefferson said, our credo should again become the foundation of our strategy for prosperity. He said, equal opportunity for all, special privileges for none. And nowhere has the credo been more absent, or has the assault on the middle class been finding more favor than in our tax code itself. Taxes have never been absent from the debate between citizens and their government. When King George chose to raise taxes on paint, paper, and tea in the American colonies, rather than tax those in Britain, he unwittingly lit the fires of revolution that burst into flames just blocks away from this hall, with the Boston Massacre. Just over 100 years later, no less a Republican than Teddy Roosevelt said, the first requisite of a good citizen in this republic of ours is that he shall be able and willing to pull his weight. America always stood for shared sacrifice and fundamental fairness. No wonder Americans are increasingly fed up with a system where the idea of shared sacrifice has literally been turned on its head. After 4 years of war, the income gap between CEOs and Army privates is 308 to 1. The Army private makes about $25,000 a year and puts life and limb on the line. The average defense CEO makes $7.7 million. This didn't happen by accident. It's long since time to roll back this president's unfair, unaffordable tax cuts for those who make more than $200,000 a year. In 2008 alone, next year, those tax cuts will give $49 billion to people making $1 million a year or more. That's 20% of the entire tax cut going to 1/3 of 1% of the population that doesn't need it at all. Let me tell you, those of us lucky enough to be in a high income bracket ought to be content and recognize that luck. Teresa and I do not need, and we didn't ask for, a tax cut when more than 46 million Americans need health care coverage. That So now, it falls on us to do more than correct the mistakes of the last 7 years. We need to readjust the entire tax code to reflect who we are, what we value, and what we need to see in terms of opportunity for the middle class, honoring work, not just wealth, and closing the loopholes that reward CEOs for sending American jobs overseas. We need to make it equitable, and we need to make it radically simpler. In 1940, instructions to the Form 1040 were about 4 pages long. Today, the instruction booklet fills more than 100 pages, accompanied by 10 more schedules and 20 worksheets. It takes the average person 28 hours just to file a tax return. My friends, you shouldn't have to hire a CPA just to get your tax refund back from Uncle Sam. We also have to reform the alternative minimum tax, which has been metastasized into the family tax. Back in January 1969, Americans were outraged, appropriately, to learn that the 155 of the wealthiest citizens somehow paid no federal income tax at all. Congress received more letters of protest about that than about the Vietnam War. And Washington responded by creating the alternative minimum tax. In 1970, 20,000 Americans paid the AMT. In 2007, 23 million will. And who are they? Teachers, police officers, nurses, and hardworking families. And while George Bush keeps talking about giving people a tax break and the millionaires get it, the people who do the hardest work in America and make up the middle class don't get it. We need to change that. Now some people want to patch the AMT, they just want to pump the problem down the road. But we shouldn't just band-aid an unfair tax, my friends. We should bury it all together. It's also time that we end the separate and unequal system that taxes money earned by wealth so much more and comfortable. The tax code ought to give more help to families, help them save for college, help them save for retirement, not help millionaires hide their money offshore. And as we fix the code, we also need to finally put an end to the corporate tax system that rewards sending American jobs overseas. Yeah. It's just plain wrong. It's insulting to tell American workers to dig their own occupational grave by subsidizing the export of their own jobs. We must also restore accountability and bring today's nearly $1 trillion underground economy into the sunshine. Too many sectors of our economy are moving off the books, and they're working for cash under the table. And the reason they scoff at the law is they think it's the only way they're going to get by. Everybody loses when that happens. Putting an end to the underground economy will actually save jobs and bring in tax revenue at the same time. You know, all of us take pride when corporations produce great products and great jobs. That's the American way. But we should take equal pride when corporate America pays its fair share of the costs of making America strong.